Today I'm not so much celebrating as giving remembrance to the day of the 11th of September. The events both at and surrounding the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center in New York. First and foremost, I'd like to take a moment just to remember the lives that were lost that day, both at the World Trade Center but also in the aeroplanes that were never found. And I can't imagine what it must be like for the families losing people in such a manner. It must be very difficult to come to terms with such an act. And I also wish to honour today for the role that it's played in the unfolding of the last few years. The World Trade Center events, and it wasn't just the World Trade Center, have formed a focal point in what has unfolded since then. In the wake of 9/11, we have seen much greater atrocities and things that have affected all of our lives. It was straight after 9/11, well, immediately after 9/11, there was the surprising announcement of the culprit. Even though dust was still falling from the sky, they had apparently found out that it was Osama bin Laden. This, I think, was the first great big piece of propaganda that has distracted many people ever since. The whole hunt for Osama bin Laden and the purported capture and killing of absolutely stink to high heaven. Those events were used as a means to go to war with a whole number of countries. They were used as a means to enforce the Patriot Act, which means now that everybody's electronic communication is being surveilled everywhere. All of our emails, all of our text messages. It has meant that the trust in the mainstream media has been devastated. I don't think it's recovered. Perhaps people shouldn't have been trusting the media for a very long time, but that certainly was the point that I found myself in no doubt about the fact that what was being said on the TV was complete lies. The first and best example of that is the BBC reporter that was announcing the collapse of World Trade Center 7, a building that was still standing in the background as they were announcing its collapse. This just goes to show that the event was scripted beforehand. Now, many of the lies that were told around that day have been proven beyond any doubt. There were so many firemen testimonies to the explosions that were going off, where and when, things that didn't correspond with the story of these two planes having hit at the towers. Clearly two planes did hit the towers, and yet there were explosions already embedded. There were eyewitness testimony to people servicing the air conditioning units and the elevator shafts in the days leading up to 9/11. There was the sudden absence of people from the offices on that day, seemingly forewarned that there was an event about to happen. There were but most tellingly for me, there were the testimonies of over 10,000 architects and engineers people who built and designed skyscrapers, pilots too, over 10,000, who testified to the fact that it was impossible that the towers fell in the way that they did. There's the fact that there's no evidence of a plane having crashed into the Pentagon. It just goes on and on and on. It's incredible to think that the supposed commission that was set up to independently determine whether or not, or what the truth of the events were. It's just amazing that they got away with being able to perpetrate such barefaced lies to the world. And it's shocking to me now to encounter my young people that still are not aware of the fact that 9/11 was an inside job, that was pre-planned, that was a false flag. It's incredible. It's now just part of history, as if that was. And now I know what it is for those people that lived through the period of JFK's assassination, and through many of those assassinations of the 60s that people knew were lies, and where the official narrative didn't even begin to cover the events, the testimonies, the eyewitness accounts. So I hate this term, we live in a post-truth world, but it's certainly the case in terms of the media. There's a man I'm very inspired by called Liam Scheff, who died a few years ago, Scheff, and he has a theory that the flat earth phenomenon is a response, a psychological response to having been lied to and known that one has been lied to so blatantly that there becomes an inability to trust in anything that the media says, anything at all. It's an understandable reaction. It's something that happens, for instance, in children that find themselves lied to by their parents. There becomes an immediate rejection of anything that they say. So today, I feel that 9/11 and honouring this day, it commemorates not just the lives of those people who died and the people who died in its wake, but also the sense of truth, the sense of belief in government, the belief in justice. I feel a lot of things died on that day. It's very interesting that the first country that was chosen to invade after the events of 9/11 was Afghanistan, which didn't seem to have any connection to the events whatsoever. And the United States moved in and controlled a huge area of Afghanistan for quite a long time. It just so happened that it was the year after the Taliban had announced that they were going to stop heroin production in Afghanistan that there was this invasion. And it's interesting to note that in the light of that invasion, there was the OxyContin scandal. There was this huge wave of incredibly strong opiates that were available to almost everybody in the United States. You only said you had to have a sore back, and all of a sudden you were getting prescribed really intense opiates. There's a huge scandal that's still to this day unfolding. There's the family who are being pursued for having been behind the production of OxyContin. But I have no doubt that they were just one small part of this much wider initiative to fill the Western populations with powerful opiates. Some people watching this, if their patients have lasted out so long, will think I must be a complete conspiracy theorist. And to me, it seems that conspiracy is one of the most fundamental parts of human interaction. So that's a fact for a start. And the other things that I've mentioned, apart from the suppositions, the strange patterns that I've noticed in terms of our invasions of countries that have huge heroin production, and then suddenly finding that everybody is addicted to heroin in the West not long after. Apart from that supposition, the rest of the things that I'm saying are facts. I saw those firemen talking about what happened to them. I saw the eyewitness testimonies of people at the very moment that it was happening, and then those expositions all being deleted from the internet, all disappearing. It's quite amazing. So today I'm not celebrating, but I'm remembering 9/11 and the key role that it played in the unfolding of events over the last few years. A time where governments just feel that they are absolutely within their rights to lie to the population at will. Barefaced lies. It's quite incredible. Taking a moment of silence to remember all of those people on that day, and those people who died in its wake. Soldiers, civilians, policemen, firemen, and I'm sure the list goes on.